Chapter 91. Where did Lin Chi learn all those techniques? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 91. Where did Lin Chi learn all those techniques? Lin Chi saw that the fist was about to hit him. He could even feel the heavy wind from Wang Long's fist. The fierce aura in it was as if a fierce tiger had suddenly jumped down from the top of the mountain with a great force. Such a method of accumulating energy and finally attacking was indeed average. His method could only be used in the arena. The enemy would not give him the chance to even catch a breath if he was in the wild. Wang Long would not have the time to accumulate energy when facing continuous attacks. It was no wonder that Hua Tianxi looked down upon Wang Long. Someone like Hua Tianxi might have already engaged in life-and-death duels with many people in the martial arts world. Did the ones with actual combat look down upon the ones who had just practical experience? It had only been less than 10 seconds from when Wang Long attacked when he was close to Lin Chi, and Lin Chi had already thought about many things. However, he would not disappoint Wang Long's urge to get embarrassed. After all, he was someone who cheated in gaining techniques. Flowing cloud movement technique. Chaos yuan of heaven and earth technique. He activated both of the cultivation at the same time. A strong wind rose from under Lin Chi's feet in an instant. Lin Chi turned around with the support of the strong wind. Wang Long's fist was pulled in by the strength of the chaos yuan of heaven and earth technique. His right fist seemed to be out of control as it directly turned its direction in the air and smashed fiercely at his face. Bang! A muffled sound rang in Wang Long's head. Poof! Wang Long spat out fresh blood suddenly. Even half of his teeth were broken and were spat out together with the fresh blood. Everyone below the arena was stunned when they saw that scene. The entire arena fell into an inexplicable silence. 3 seconds later, a burst of enthusiastic shouting suddenly erupted, and everyone began to discuss it. Holy sh*t, what kind of move was that? As expected of Lin Chi, he's too strong. Did you see Lin Chi's move? I feel that Lin Chi dodged Wang Long's attack all of a sudden, but why did Wang Long hit himself? Yeah, I'm also curious. Could it be that Wang Long can't accept the truth and wanted to admit defeat? That's impossible. Hua Tianxi, who was by the side of the arena, also heard everyone's discussion, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. He had long seen that the gap between Wang Long and Lin Chi's strength. Wang Long only wanted to use some of the techniques that he had trained hard to gain advantages. Then to stabilize himself so that he would be in an undefeatable position while facing Lin Chi's strange wind. In the end, he would gather his strength to knock Lin Chi down with one strike. Wang Long had wanted to challenge him before, but he understood that Wang Long was used to training hard when he saw Wang Long. As expected, Wang Long had too little experience in the martial arts world. He would not even know how he died in the martial arts world if he did not prepare a few more trump cards. Hua Tianxi shook his head and looked at Lin Chi's back, as well as the last move just now. He fell into deep thought. In the arena, Wang Long's face was covered in blood. His right face was sunken, and a huge fist print had appeared on his face. It was a pity that his fist had been swung out and could not be retreated, which he eventually could only deflect the power of this punch in time because he had realized Lin Chi's counterattack. Otherwise, the last punch would end in his head instead of half of his face and teeth. It was also fortunate that he had already cultivated his body refining technique to great success. Otherwise, he would die if he had an ordinary person's physique, even if he stopped and deflected nearly half of the power. Wang Long finally recovered from the fear of being lucky enough to survive at this time. His eyes filled with shock as he looked at Lin Chi. What kind of power was that? He was clearly about to hit him. What kind of powerful ability was that, which could make Lin Chi dodged and reverse the effect to him? He had never seen Lin Chi use such an ability before. Could that be his trump card? It was terrifying. Wang Long had also thought it through and felt that Lin Chi was indeed Hua Tianxi's opponent. He was too simple-minded previously. Wang Long covered his face with his right hand and gestured to the referee with one hand to admit defeat. Then, he strode down the arena. His eyes were still looking in the direction of Hua Tianxi in the corner of the arena till the end. Hua Tianxi's gaze was fixed on Lin Chi. There was a smug expression on his face, and his mouth was slightly open. It was as if he was telling Lin Chi that he had seen through him. Wang Long took a deep breath and looked at Lin Chi one last time before leaving with a disappointed look on his face. He now understood that he was not a match to neither Lin Chi nor Hua Tianxi. The host announced the winner after Wang Long left the arena. Lin Chi crossed his arms and strode down the arena. Hua Tianxi wanted to declare another battle challenge when he saw Lin Chi leave the arena. However, he realized that Lin Chi left without even looking at him. Hua Tianxi was speechless. He was the one who provoked Lin Chi yesterday, after all. Lin Chi refuted him in the end, causing the crowd to start discussing. However, Lin Chi left after the fight. He did not have any communication or conflict with Hua Tianxi. It would appear as though Baihua Valley was anxious, and Hua Tianxi would ruin the reputation of his sect if he took the initiative to declare war on Lin Chi. Therefore, the most important thing for Hua Tianxi now was to stabilize himself and fight step by step. He would have to fight against Lin Chi one day. They might meet at the finals then. The anger that Hua Tianxi felt because of Lin Chi's disregard for him disappeared when he thought of that. Then, he strode out and left the arena. The crowds around the arena also left slowly in groups of 2 or 3 when they saw Wang Long, Lin Chi, and Hua Tianxi left the field. A few hours later, the news of Lin Chi defeating Wang Long spread fast, and it caused a wave of heated discussion among the major sections. Wang Long's skill level was estimated to be about the 5th among the participants in this competition. Lin Chi's strength was also estimated to be about the top 5. Lin Chi's moves were too strange and did not seem like the moves used by the disciples of the Baiyun sect, after all. However, the sect leaders did not say that there was a problem with Lin Chi's cultivation technique. The disciples still had to rely on their ability to speak, no matter how many of them felt that there was something wrong with Lin Chi. At that moment, in a courtyard, Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao, the sect leader of Baiyun sect, and Guan Zhen, the elder of Yanhui Peak, also received a report from their disciples. The situation was fully reported to them in a few minutes. Although Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao and Guan Zhen were already confident that Lin Chi would win this battle, a trace of regret appeared in their eyes after hearing the disciples' detailed report of Lin Chi's battle situation. Therefore, both of them drank tea in the courtyard and did not go to the scene to check out the specific situation. He only used one move. He hasn't used the Heavenly Thunder Sword technique yet. Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao and Guan Zhen asked again. Their eyes filled with disbelief. According to the disciple, Lin Chi's technique was not the technique that defeated the young monk from Golden Mountain Temple, but it was a new technique. But the same question appeared in their mind at the same time. Where did he learn all those techniques from? Chapter 92. The Strength of Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92. The Strength of Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao and Guan Zhen, Lin Chi had never been to any other sect. He had only seen the cultivation techniques and martial techniques in the Baiyun sect, but they had never seen any other disciple perform a similar ability. That was strange. Sect leader, elder, senior Lin did only use one move, and he didn't use the Heavenly Thunder Sword technique, but his cultivation technique was strange. He can reverse the full power of the Tiger Fist back to Wang Long. The disciple added again. Junior, what cultivation technique do you think this is? Taoist spiritual master Yunxiao's eyes filled with curiosity as he looked at Guanzhen and asked. Reversing the power. Guanzhen didn't answer Taoist spiritual master Yunxiao's question and fell into deep thought. The Baiyun sect didn't have anyone who could perform such an ability for as long as he could remember. He had once met someone who could master such an ability, and that was the first owner of the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth umbrella. The cultivation technique that he cultivated was a cultivation technique that could reverse the power of the universe. But that senior was no longer alive. He had been dead for more than 150 years. How could he pass on his cultivation technique to Lin Qi? The senior did not leave behind any inheritance. Lin Qi could not have comprehended the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique out of thin air. He must have some basis or evidence. Guanzhen seemed to have thought of something and his pupils constricted. Could it be that Lin Qi had learned the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique from the umbrella he gave him? Guanzhen was instantly shocked by his thoughts. Taoist spiritual master Yuan Shao, who was by his side, noticed the changes in Guanzhen and hurriedly asked, Junior, quickly tell me if you know something. You're making me anxious. I just have a guess, but I'm not very confident in that guess either. Guanzhen said hesitantly. Whether it's true or not, we can only know the result faster if we discuss it together. Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao was a little annoyed when he saw Guanzhen's behavior. I suspect that the cultivation technique that Lin Qi learned is the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique. Guanzhen's eyes flickered as he slowly said. Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao suddenly thought of the legendary senior who had roamed the world for 30 years upon hearing Guanzhen's guess. Then, a look of shock appeared in his eyes. The two of them looked at each other and nodded slightly. They both had an answer in their hearts. And Guanzhen fell into deep thought. One had to know that this umbrella had been in his hands for decades. He had used it to display many techniques. He had already studied this umbrella thoroughly from the moment he obtained it. This umbrella did not have any secret techniques. That umbrella was simple. There was nothing else other than some natural patterns on the umbrella. Unless Lin Qi had seen some patterns from the patterns on the umbrella and then concluded a set of cultivation techniques. Is there such a genius in the world? Guanzhen muttered to himself, his face full of disbelief. Lin Qi's cultivation technique talent could be described as unprecedented if it was just like he had guessed. Baiyun sect might be able to strive higher if that kid had learned the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique and pass it down in our Baiyun sect. Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao instantly understood the cause and effect of that. He, as the sect leader, had already started to pave the way for the future of the entire sect. Senior, I think you shouldn't think about the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique that Lin Qi comprehended on his. Lin Qi is more important to our Baiyun sect than the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique. Senior, you have to grasp which is more important. Guanzhen looked solemnly at Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao as he spoke. Taoist spiritual master also realized that at once. The person who performed the cultivation technique was more important than the cultivation technique. There were many great cultivation techniques in the martial arts world, but there had never been a single cultivation technique that caused the entire sect to rise. That was because the more powerful the cultivation technique, the more difficult it was to learn and the longer it would take. The requirements for the cultivator were also high. One could not lack either comprehension or perseverance. Therefore, that cultivation technique was mostly prepared for those talented disciples. Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao figured it out and looked at Guanzhen gratefully. That could already prove Lin Qi's talent in cultivation since he could learn that cultivation technique. A favored son of heaven. His future was unlimited. Unfortunately, such a disciple didn't choose to become his disciple. That was indeed the greatest loss in his life. However, the kid would still be a disciple from Baiyun sect as long as he was still Guan's disciple, the disciples of Yanhui Peak. Lin Qi would be able to show off in the grand competition, which could be considered as bringing a great reputation for Bai Yun sect. "Oh right, where is that kid?" Taoist spiritual master Yun Shao asked. "Senior Lin should be taking a walk in the nearby town now," the disciple replied. "Ha! The sect competition is still going on. Why isn't this kid staying in the courtyard? Why is he still running around?" Yun Shao was a little displeased. Lin Qi was a rising star of the Bai Yun sect, after all. Their sect would suffer a huge loss if something happened to him. Guan Zhen, on the other hand, was calm. Lin Qi was hiding his strength in the sect from the commotion he made when he went down the mountain. Guan Zhen could be considered to have some understanding of Lin Qi's character now. That kid was a restless person. He had hidden all his trump cards in the sect. The consequences of anyone in the town who provoked Lin Qi would not be good either. Suddenly, this disciple thought of something and said, "And Junior Guan, follow behind Senior Lin. She must be out of her mind. Xiaoyu is already such a grown-up. Why is she still so insensible?" Guan Zhen frowned and said, "The taboos while going out in the martial arts world was to bring along family members. It was because someone with ulterior motives could use the family member to threaten the disciple. She was a burden to Lin Qi. Especially now that it was during the competition, which created a crowd in town and there were all kinds of people in them. Oh. Let's not worry about this first. Which town did they go to?" Yun Shao quickly asked. "Dongling town." The disciple replied. Guan Zhen immediately reacted when he heard that and immediately summoned his flying sword. Yun Shao also quickly summoned his flying sword when he saw that. Then, the two of them sped towards Dongling town. On the other side, in Dongling town, Mount Qiuyang was the liveliest place in Donglin town as the hosting place for the sect competition this time. Although it was currently a hot summer day, there were still many hawkers shouting to attract customers on the streets. Perhaps it was because of Xiaoyu's company that even an ordinary stroll was more interesting than usual. The young girl's light laughter seemed to make the stroll on the streets a little more refreshing. Lin Qi brought her to a nearby inn after Xiaoyu was a little tired from strolling around. They had lunch and had a short rest. Fortunately, he had bravely eliminated that gangster inn and earned a small sum of money. It was because of this that Lin Qi had the idea to go down the mountain. He had to spend the money he had earned and be generous, especially when he was with a lady. Chapter 93. Wait, did I say you can leave? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93. Wait, did I say you can leave? Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. The sun was not so hot in the afternoon. They walked around the spacious street leisurely. Lin Qi asked the way, and they followed the moving crowd and finally entered an alley. It was described as an alley, but it was only 1/3 smaller than the main street. Stalls with all kinds of items were on both sides of the alley. The most common medicinal pills and some weapons were sold there. However, the prices in that alley seemed to be a little expensive compared to some of the items in the shops outside. The two of them strolled in the alley. Xiaoyu walked to a relatively clean corner. She stretched out her fair wrist and picked up a string of red string bracelets decorated with tiny ice crystals on the edge of the low table. Xiaoyu played with it for a while. She realized that she had no money at all just as she was about to buy it. Only Senior Lin brought some money. She tilted her head back and saw Senior Lin walking around with interest. The girl could only shake her head helplessly. She put down the bracelet, smiled apologetically at the old woman across the wooden table, and walked towards Lin Qi again. A burst of clear laughter suddenly came from her right side when she just arrived at an intersection. "Isn't this Junior Xiaoyu? I didn't expect to meet you here. Such a fate we have. I'm Sun Quan. We met once, a year ago. Guan Xiaoyu looked towards the direction of the voice and saw 3 to 5 people disperse the surrounding crowd. There was a luxuriously dressed young man in the crowd. Although the young man's appearance was ordinary, he seemed to have the temperament of a disciple from a wealthy family clan under the contrast of his luxurious clothes. The young man was not like some ordinary disciples. He was not attracted by Guan Xiaoyu's beauty. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes when he looked at Guan Xiaoyu as if he was seeking something. Guan Xiaoyu frowned slightly upon seeing this young man who was delighted. She ignored his shout and turned around to leave. Junior Xiaoyu. A hint of viciousness appeared on Sun Quan's face upon seeing that Guan Xiaoyu was about to turn around and leave. However, it disappeared in an instant. Then, he quickened his pace and led his subordinates to stand in front of Guan Xiaoyu. Guan Xiaoyu stopped walking when Sun Quan blocked her way. She looked at him with a hint of annoyance in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. Junior Xiaoyu. Sun Quan revealed a smile upon seeing that Guan Xiaoyu was unable to leave. There was a hint of pride in his eyes. Junior Xiaoyu, since we've already met, and I happen to have nothing to do. Why don't we take a stroll together? The smile on Sun Quan's face grew brighter. This kind of smile, coupled with his identity, had once won the favor of many female disciples. Sun Quan, why do you keep pestering me instead of participating in the competition? My opponent has already given up on the competition. What can I do if I've already won without a match? Sun Quan said helplessly. Others would have believed his nonsense. However, Guan Zhen had told her that this person had ulterior motives when they first met this person. She had to be careful and not believe anything he said. Although Guan Xiaoyu knew that she was sometimes a little muddle-headed, she still listened to her father. Please move aside, okay? Xiaoyu said expressionlessly. Junior Xiaoyu, we are old acquaintances reunited, after all. Your indifference makes me sad. I know that you like to enjoy delicious food. I have been shopping in Dongling town for several days. I can take you to experience the fun and the food here slowly. Sun Quan said as if he was familiar with Guan Xiaoyu. He was about to pull Guan Xiaoyu's hand. However, just as Sun Quan was about to succeed, an inexplicable strong wind came at him, blowing the 5 lackeys upside down. Then, a handsome young man pulled Guan Xiaoyu's hand and pulled her behind him. Lin Qi looked at Sun Quan in surprise. He did not expect this guy to react so quickly. Although he had already withdrawn 70% of his power, he had only used 30% of the power of wind so that he wouldn't harm others because that was a small alley. But it was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. It seemed that this guy was not just a show-off but still had some skill. Sun Quan's eyes flashed with a trace of anger because someone had messed up his plan. But when he thought of his goal, he had to maintain his poise to get that thing. He could only reply with a fake smile, Junior Xiaoyu, I won't disturb you anymore since someone is accompanying me. Sun Quan turned around and was about to leave after saying that. Wait, did I say you can leave? Lin Qi's cold voice sounded in the alley. Oh, it seems that you don't want me to leave. Sun Quan turned around and stared at Lin Qi with a fierce gaze. You can leave, of course, but you scared my junior just now. You didn't even pay compensation for shocking her, let alone apologize. We can't just let you go like that. Lin Qi smiled faintly. You want compensation. Sun Quan seemed to have heard something funny. Then, he ordered his subordinates to take out a small bag of golden leaves from their bags and threw it on the ground. Lin Qi shook his head helplessly upon seeing the action of that young man. Just this. Are you trying to send a beggar away? My junior was born beautiful, a pretty woman who gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. A vulgar thing like gold is simply an insult to her. We don't want much compensation, just 1,000 spiritual stones. Lin Qi said casually. Sun Quan looked at Lin Chi coldly and didn't say anything. He had plenty of money if Lin Chi wanted money. But he didn't expect Lin Chi to ask for spiritual stones. Such things couldn't be bought with money. Some of the vendors and tourists around the alley who were watching the show laughed out loud upon hearing what Lin Chi just said. Lin Chi was indeed asking for too much. Spiritual stones were rare items that were used by cultivators who had reached the foundation establishment stage. However, no one was willing to speak up for Sun Quan. Sun Quan had relied on his advantage in the number of men he had to run amok in Dongling Town a few days ago. He had even ordered his lackeys to disperse the other tourists to make his passage more spacious. His actions were quite overbearing. Now that they saw that Sun Quan was being suppressed, everyone could not wait to cheer for that. However, they could only secretly laugh in fear of being retaliated by Sun Quan. Sun Quan also noticed the atmosphere around him. Those mocking gazes were like cold arrows shooting at him. That ignited the flame of anger in Sun Quan's heart. He slowly walked towards Lin Chi. He pretended to apologize when he was only 3 meters away. "I'm sorry." Then, he lowered his head and bowed deeply. His eyes showed a vicious look, and he clenched his teeth fiercely from an angle that no one could see. A gray-black light shot out from his sleeve the moment he raised his body before he finished his apology. Chapter 94. Your father. It's none of my business. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 94. Your father. It's none of my business. Translator. Nyo Iwo Studio Editor. Nyo Iwo Studio. Lin Chi was not afraid at all when facing Sun Quan's ambush. A wave of inexplicable twisting force suddenly rolled up in front of him, and then the gray-black stream of light turned in midair and flew to Sun Quan's dantian. Sun Quan watched helplessly as the hidden weapon that he flew out turned around and flew towards him, and his face turned pale with fright at once. What was the power? What was the cultivation technique? The vicious flying needle had already pierced through his dantian and sent him flying away before he could figure it out. Poof! Sun Quan, who was flying in the air, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He clutched his lower abdomen and rolled on the ground in pain. His lackeys saw that something was wrong. They quickly helped Sun Quan up and carried him to the side. What? Are you angry? Lin Chi said with a hint of ridicule in his eyes. How dare you treat me like this? Do you know who my father is? My father will never let you off. Sun Quan shouted with a painful look on his face. I don't care who your father is. I only know that you haven't paid the compensation for the shock you've caused. Lin Chi said casually. Sun Quan immediately panicked upon seeing Lin Chi being so aggressive. He didn't expect that there was someone who wasn't afraid of his background and strength. Senior Lin, let's forget about it. Guan Xiaoyu was happy to see her senior standing up for her, but she didn't want her senior to be involved in that matter. Sun Quan's background wasn't to be underestimated, after all. But Lin Chi just smiled at her, indicating that she shouldn't worry. Then, Lin Chi slowly approached Sun Quan, looked at him from above, and smiled playfully. How about this? It's said that a man has gold under his knees. My junior and I will forgive you if you kneel and kowtow 3 times. Lin Chi said lightly. In Lin Chi's opinion, killing such a person would not solve the problem. Only torturing him would be more interesting. Killing the young man would bring Dad to him. There were countless situations like this. It was not necessary to start the war and cause a massacre in the end. That could only be done with invincible strength. There was still a long way to go in this world, so he had to be careful. You want me to kneel and kowtow? Sun Quan roared with a ferocious expression. He was the young master of the Sun Pavilion sect, the strongest sect in Mount Chiuyang. He would not only embarrass himself but also affect the Sun Pavilion's title as the strongest sect in Mount Chiuyang if he knelt. It would be him inferior to others if he lost. No one would blame him for such a thing. There were stronger people in the world of martial arts, after all. It was not rare to encounter people like that. But it would not be just his matter if he begged for mercy. It was related to the glory of the entire sect. You dare to insult my Sun Pavilion sect. All of you, attack. This group of lackeys usually followed Sun Quan, and that was why they could flaunt their power in the Sun Pavilion. That was all because of Sun Quan's name. Sun Quan would abandon them if they did not do their jobs well. The enemies they had offended in the past would come looking for them once there was no one to protect them. The group of people braced themselves and charged forward as they thought of that. Even Sun Quan couldn't beat him, so they still knew what they were capable of. Fortunately, Lin Chi didn't kill them. They only suffered some physical pain. Lin Chi's gaze turned cold. A fierce gale blew in front of him with a wave of his hand. The 5 lackeys who rushed forward were directly sent flying the moment they approached Lin Chi. Painful wails were heard from those lackeys. They were trying to put on an act. They were all lying on the ground crying bitterly as if they had suffered some serious injuries. Lin Chi was a little speechless upon seeing that scene. He did not use much strength just now. Anyone could see that these people were putting on an act. However, the surrounding onlookers were still astonished upon the act of Lin Chi sending these 5 people flying with one move. Some had already begun to pay attention to Lin Chi. Only Sun Quan was left at the scene in an instant. Sun Quan was so scared that he was drenched in a cold sweat. A powerful force was exerted on Sun Quan's entire body before Sun Quan could say anything. Sun Quan's hair immediately stood on end. There was only one thought in his mind at that moment. How did that fellow even dare to touch him? How dare you? Ah! A miserable cry came from the alley. Sun Quan seemed to be under some control of some strange power and started to kneel and kowtow like a puppet. Lin Chi knew his limits and only used the power of heaven and earth to control Sun Quan's body. An urgent scream came from the other end of the alley at that moment. Lin Chi. Show mercy. Lin Chi turned around and saw that it was indeed his master Guan Zhen when he heard that familiar voice. Sect Master Yun Xiao followed behind him. Xiaoyu, why did you follow Lin Chi around? What if something happens? Guan Zhen looked at Guan Xiaoyu with a serious look on his face. Master, don't worry. Nothing will happen with me around, Lin Chi said confidently. Then what's the situation now? Guan Zhen looked at Lin Chi, indicating that he didn't want to believe it. This has nothing to do with me. It's him, Lin Chi said innocently. Stop it now, Guan Zhen said seriously. Then, Guan Zhen looked at Sun Quan, who was sitting on the ground, and said apologetically, Nephew Sun, I'm sorry. This disciple of mine has a bad temper. It's already not easy for me to dissuade him. Let's end this matter here. Sun Quan wanted to take the opportunity to ask for compensation upon seeing Guan Zhen apologize. However, he heard some discussions coming from not far away. Lin Chi, you're good at everything but not ruthless enough. I killed a lot of people like that back then. Sect leader, I'm doing this for the Baiyun sect. What if we get into trouble? How great can the Sun Pavilion sect be? They are just a locally famous sect. Why would our Baiyun sect be afraid of such sect? Sun Quan's eyelids twitched, and he didn't say anything more. Isn't the Baiyun sect's motto to be peaceful and out of trouble? Why is even the sect leader of the Baiyun sect so arrogant? That is too ruthless. Sun Quan could only grumble silently, but he couldn't do anything to them. The Baiyun sect's sect master had spoken, after all, so what could he do? No matter how strong the Sun Pavilion was, it was still only the strongest sect in Mount Chiuyang. However, the Baiyun sect was one of the 3 top sects in the Central Plains. They were not on the same level at all. Sun Quan could only suffer the loss for nothing. The injuries were not that important anymore. The most important thing was that his dantian had been damaged because of the hidden weapon. He did not have the confidence to participate in the competition anymore since he had injured his dantian. One of the places in the top 10 should be his. Now, he could only withdraw from the competition. Although he felt resentful, he could only watch as Lin Chi leaving slowly with the others. Chapter 95. The Sect Leaders and the Elders' Conflict. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. The Sect Leaders and the Elders' Conflict. In a courtyard halfway up Mount Qiuyang, Yun Xiao and Guan Zhen looked at Lin Chi with a burning gaze. It was as if they had seen a rare treasure. Lin Chi's entire body started to have goosebumps under their gaze. However, these two seniors only stared at him and didn't say anything. It was creepy. However, it was obvious that they had something important to say from their looks. But they looked as if they did not know how to say it. Lin Chi was not in a hurry. He randomly found a chair from the house and took it out to sit. It was a perfect time to enjoy the night view. Guan Zhen and Yun Xiao kept exchanging glances beside him. Both wanted the other to ask about the secrets of Lin Chi's superb techniques. However, it was taboo to ask about the secrets of others' techniques in the martial arts world because that was what everyone used to protect themselves outside. It was equivalent to letting the enemy know the weakness once the secret technique was known to the public. Especially such a unique skill, it needed to be well guarded. Moreover, Lin Chi discovered the technique all by himself, and it belonged to him personally. Therefore, neither Yun Xiao nor Guanzhen wanted to ask this question. Their question might make Lin Chi unhappy, or even made him think that the sect wanted him to contribute his secret. The matter would be troublesome then. Both were afraid that their relationship with Lin Chi would break because of this. Their eyes flickered, and they finally decided who would ask. Guanzhen sighed in his heart. He could only hope that Lin Chi could understand. It's so quiet. A cute voice sounded from the door just as he was about to ask. The voice sounded a little playful. Then, a smaller figure walked in from outside the door. She was suddenly stunned the moment she walked in. Senior, how long have they been like this? Guan Xiaoyu walked over carefully, pushed Lin Chi's arm, and whispered in Lin Chi's ear. Lin Chi, who was sitting on the chair half asleep, slowly woke up after being pushed by Guan Xiaoyu. Lin Chi rubbed his eyes and yawned. He glanced at the sect leader and his master who were still in there and casually said, "About 2 hours." Guan Zhen, who was at the side, saw his daughter coming back from the outside, and a plan suddenly appeared in his mind. "Xiaoyu, come here." Guan Zhen waved his hand. Guan Xiaoyu's expression froze, and she looked at her father with a puzzled look. She turned to the sect master and saw the sect master's approving smile. She was confused. What happened to her father and sect master Yun Xiao today? Why had they been acting weird ever since they came back in the afternoon? Didn't they have something to ask Senior Lin? They even asked her to go to the side to play when they came back and said that they had something important to talk about. Haven't they talked about it yet? Although Guan Xiaoyu had doubts in her heart, she still obediently went to a corner of the courtyard. "Xiaoyu, it's like this. Father and the sect leader have a question that we need to ask Lin Chi, but we are too embarrassed to ask. I hope that you can help me and the sect leader." Guan Zhen's eyes were filled with anticipation as he slowly said. "Okay, no problem," Guan Xiaoyu said confidently. "When you were at the scene today, did you see what kind of cultivation technique Lin Chi used?" Guan Zhen asked. "It was just a sudden gust of wind, and those people were sent flying." Guan Xiaoyu said. "No, I'm asking you about the specific details, do you understand?" "I don't know about the details." Guan Xiaoyu shook her head. "So, I hope you can ask Lin Chi, but why should I?" Guan Xiaoyu asked curiously. Because there is an age gap between us. You and Lin Chi are of the same generation, and the age difference is not big, so you are the most appropriate person to ask him these things. But isn't this very important? You said that I was not suitable to be here when I came back in the afternoon and that I would easily let others know, Guan Xiaoyu said. Guan Zhen looked at Guan Xiaoyu with an inexplicable smile and said casually. Have I been too nice to you recently? Okay, Dad, I'll go ask now. Guan Xiaoyu quickly ran away and walked to the center of the courtyard, slowly approaching Lin Chi, who was lying on the chair. Guan Xiaoyu squatted on the right side of Lin Chi, her gaze fixed on Lin Chi's body. She frowned as if there was something on Lin Chi's face. Guan Xiaoyu frowned more gradually. She kept drawing on the ground with the tree branch in her hand. Her actions became more and more urgent, to the point that the tree branch was almost broken. Junior, what's the matter? Lin Chi scratched his head and said. Guan Xiaoyu's head was like a balloon about to explode upon hearing Lin Chi's words. She finally let out a big breath. It was because she was embarrassed to take the initiative to ask. However, it was different now because Lin Chi took the initiative to talk to her. Senior, what technique did you use today? Guan Xiaoyu asked curiously. Oh, that. I call it the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique, Lin Chi said lightly. Yun Xiao and Guan Zhen looked at each other when they heard Lin Chi's words. They could see a trace of shock in each other's eyes. As expected. Lin Chi had learned the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique. Just as the two of them were waiting for Guan Xiaoyu to come up with the question about the exact information of the Chaos Yuan of Heaven and Earth technique. They saw Guan Xiaoyu running towards them excitedly. They were instantly disappointed, and at the same time, they shouted in their hearts, Xiaoyu, why didn't you ask in detail? They did not expect Guan Xiaoyu to come back after asking the name of the technique. However, it was not a total loss. Lin Chi must have gained something since he could say the name of the technique so accurately. Therefore, they did not need to be anxious as long as Lin Chi was in the Baiyun sect. They believed that Lin Chi would not let the Baiyun sect down as long as they treated him well. The next day, Lin Chi arrived at the training field as usual. He found that the people he had met once before were waiting in the courtyard as soon as he walked in. They were looking forward to something. Lin Chi also felt that it was a little strange, but he did not care. He walked straight to the audience stage. A familiar figure walked over from the side before he could walk there. It was Hua Tianxi. His eyes showed eagerness with a hint of admiration. He looked at Lin Chi as if he was looking at his kind. Lin Chi, as expected of you. Hua Tianxi praised. Lin Chi didn't want to pay attention to this guy and just walked away. Hua Tianxi wasn't angry either, so he quickly followed. The audience started to discuss again when they saw the two people walking in. What do you think Hua Tianxi and Lin Chi are talking about? It must be because of yesterday's incident. Hua Tianxi must have been agitated and wanted to fight Lin Chi even more. Yeah, the average contestants can't pressure Hua Tianxi anymore. Yesterday's incident. What happened yesterday? I've been watching the competition. I've never heard of anything big happening. I've to tell you this. Chapter 96. Hua Tianxi's misunderstanding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. Hua Tianxi's misunderstanding. On the martial arts arena. Lin Chi rested his chin on his right hand as he sat on the audience seat in boredom. His current position was probably the best position to watch the match in the entire martial arts arena. The martial arts arena was crowded. Many people could only stand and watch the match. Lin Chi didn't come early. However, others subconsciously left this seat empty because he often came to this seat. Because sometimes, he did not want to come over or had stayed for a while before leaving. Even so, no one dared to come over and sit in this seat. The reason was quite simple. It was because of ability. His strange and multi-stages attacks, and the courage to challenge the winner, Hua Tianxi, as well as violently beating up Sun Quan, the son of the sect master of Sun Pavilion sect. Lin Qi had also become one of the winners to win the competition. He had Baiyun sect, one of the three most famous sects in the Central Plains, supporting him, after all. His strength, his reputation in the martial arts world, and his background. The other contestants were naturally far inferior to Lin Qi. No one would dare to sit at a seat with a good view without an outstanding ability, even if Lin Qi was willing to let others sit in it. Perhaps only Hua Tianxi would dare to sit among all the contestants. However, Hua Tianxi was also a person with pride. He did not want to fight for a seat with others. He was more willing to have a match compared to such trivial matters. It was because he was a match maniac. However, such trivial matters were still important to Lin Qi. He came to this world to enjoy himself. So, he had to be in the most comfortable state no matter what. Lin Qi glanced at Hua Tianxi, who was sitting next to him. Although he knew that Hua Tianxi was a match maniac and didn't have any strange hobbies, he was still a man. However, Lin Qi was a man. He would rather have a woman sitting next to him compared to a man sitting next to him. At least a woman staring at him wouldn't cause any strange misunderstandings. It was because that man came to the arena not to watch the competition but to stare at another man next to him. Was that acceptable? Lin Qi would rather go to some small towns at the foot of the mountain and take a walk than being in the training field. But he had no choice after what happened yesterday. How could he be blamed? He did that for his junior. However, the sect master and his master didn't let him go out. Was that his punishment? Sigh, he felt helpless. Lin Qi shook his head and sighed in his heart. Sure enough, brother Lin. Do you also think that the fight between these two people is very boring? Hua Tianxi's eyes shot out a bright light upon noticing Lin Qi's actions. Why don't we find an open space to spar? Hua Tianxi looked at Lin Qi with anticipation. Boring. Lin Qi stretched his back and said lightly. As time passed, more and more people entered the qualifying round on the 9 circular arenas in the 9 connected squares. It was just noon. The 2 gray-haired old men, who had been prepared, walked to the circular arenas in the center of the 9 arenas and began to announce the rules of the next round. The contents of the rules were not hugely different from before. The most important rule was that the opponent's life should not be in danger. The later the match progressed, the stronger everyone's desire to win and lose would be. The more intense the match, the more excited the participants would be. The arrogance of the winner, the disdain towards the loser, and the hatred of the loser towards the winner could lead to unpredictable events happening in the match. The use of hidden weapons, poison, and other despicable methods had all happened before. Therefore, they would remind the rules once again every time they entered the next round. The people on the training field suddenly became excited after the announcement. Lin Qi, who was sitting at the audience seat, was naturally not interested in this round of the competition. He did not have a competition today because there would be advance notice if there were any competition arrangements, as a top 10 disciple. As the bell rang, the battle began once again, according to the latest list of names. Lin Qi did not want to continue watching after watching only 2 matches. The main reason was that it was almost time to eat. Although after cultivating to this extent, it would not be a big deal even if he starved for a few days. But as a person who had transmigrated, 3 meals a day was the basic guarantee. Just as Lin Qi was thinking about what to eat for lunch today, Hua Tianxi, who was sitting next to him, stood up and said to Lin Qi, "Brother Lin, it's my turn. You've learned a new technique and developed a new ability. I, Hua Tianxi, will not fall behind. Arena number 3, please wait and see. What shall I eat?" Lin Qi ignored Hua Tianxi and whispered to himself. What is it? It seems that Brother Lin is also curious about my new move. Hua Tianxi laughed. He thought that Lin Chi was asking him, but he didn't expect that he heard wrong. Lin Chi was thinking about what to eat later. Hua Tianxi couldn't help but show a hint of self-satisfaction upon seeing that Lin Chi was deep in thought. It seemed that Brother Lin was also curious sometimes. Hua Tianxi strode out of the spectator stand as he spoke, his eyes full of fighting spirit. It seemed that he was confident in his new move. Soon, the challenger in ring number 3 was already in position. He looked forward to Lin Chi's surprised expression when Lin Chi saw the new move he learned. He subconsciously looked at where Lin Chi was just as he was about to release the movie. In the end, what he saw was an empty seat. Hua Tianxi was burning with anger in an instant. Damn it! One had to know that he would carefully observe and study every single battle of Lin Chi. Lin Chi used the wind and displayed it in different forms regardless of the first few battles. Or the battle with Wang Long, in which he used the mysterious and unpredictable power of control. But he had never seen this guy appear in every battle of his. He dared to look down on me. Lin Chi, I will beat you to the ground during our match. Hua Tianxi roared in his heart. And the arena had indirectly led to a tragedy because of Lin Chi's departure. A man wearing gray clothes in the arena had an arrogant look on his face. Initially, he wanted to take this opportunity to make a name for himself when he saw that his opponent was Hua Tianxi. Although he knew that he could not beat Hua Tianxi, he was still in the top 10. He would not be able to pass that round if he lost badly. He had to show what he had. How could a cultivator not be arrogant? Unfortunately, his luck was not good. It just so happened that he met Hua Tianxi, who was in an awful mood. The battle ended quickly. The man in gray was sent flying into the air in a breath's time. His face was bruised, especially his eyes, which were puffy and black. He could barely open them. Chapter 97. The Invitation of the Crane. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97. The Invitation of the Crane. Translator. Nyo iwo Studio Editor. Nyo iwo Studio. The gray figure flew down the stage like a kite with a broken string. The few experts standing below the arena were shocked. They subconsciously circulated their energy and reached out to catch the gray figure, but they were still too late. Bang! The gray figure made a muffled sound when it hit the ground. Then, he rolled more than 10 times until he stopped in front of the obstacles under inertia. Many figures came to the side of the gray figure. An elder bent down to touch the gray figure. A cold feeling spread from the elder's fingertips into the gray figure's body, murmuring and flowing through every inch of his body. The elder's eyes became more and more shocked during this process. Then, he raised his head and said, his 5 internal organs have shifted, and his meridians are broken. The few experts beside him also revealed shocked expressions. But he only took 1 palm strike. An expert cried out. The elder could not help but shake his head. We still underestimated Lin Chi. And the shock of the spectators at this moment was not lesser than the elder and the others. They did not see the match that they had imagined being an even match. Instead, a loser had been born from just 1 palm strike. The audience instantly became silent. Everyone seemed to have been frozen, maintaining movements from before the palm strike. Some of them had their jaws dropped, some rubbed their eyes, some ate, but none of them moved. It was not until the gray figure landed on the ground and rolled, making a dull sound, that the people in the audience reacted as if someone had turned on the switch again. An uproar swept across the scene. The shocked voices in the scene broke out when the elder announced the gray figure's 5 internal organs shifted, and his meridians were severely injured. Hua Tianxi won't die, will he? He will not die with so many seniors helping him here. Moreover, Lin Chi only used 1 palm strike. He should be. Alright, I guess. He suddenly felt guilty at the end of his sentence. It was hard to say whether Lin Chi's palm strike would directly kill Hua Tianxi. The way people looked at Lin Chi changed from the admiration they had for an expert to the fear of monsters. It was hard to imagine that such a handsome and harmless young man contained the terrifying explosive power of a fierce beast. Even those who were familiar with Lin Chi revealed an expression of disbelief at this moment. They thought that Lin Chi might win and did not expect him to defeat Hua Tianxi in one move and violently. They knew Lin Chi, but it was as though they were looking at a stranger at that moment. Lin. Those who knew Lin Chi wanted to greet him when he passed by. However, they suddenly withdrew after saying just one word. They instinctively stopped their greeting moves when they thought of Lin Chi's terrifying strength and that strange feeling. Hello, Lin Chi revealed a smile as he greeted them. Many people were in a daze after seeing this scene. Lin Chi, who was as terrifying as a ferocious beast a moment ago, was friendly now. He had returned to his original harmless appearance. Such contrast caused many people to feel extremely curious. Pass down my instructions. Focus on nurturing Lin Chi from today onwards. The seniors from the sect who were watching the battle recovered their senses gradually at this moment. They instructed excitedly after that. As the entire area was in a state of shock. No one noticed. There was a blurry airflow that gradually took on the shape of a human in the clouds. It transformed into an old man dressed in a long yellow robe at the end. There was an 8 trigrams pattern embroidered on his robe. A white horsetail whisk appeared out of thin air with a wave of his slightly aged hand. The old man held the horsetail whisk in his right hand and placed it on his left arm. He had a long white beard and looked like an immortal. Not bad. Not bad. The old man said not bad twice. His eyes filled with appreciation as he looked down at Lin Chi. Come. He waved the horsetail whisk in front of him and spoke, come. A crane's cry came from the clouds immediately. The white crane flew through the clouds and missed. It looked as if it was passing through the barrier between the immortal world and the mortal world. It broke through the space-time restriction and slowly landed on the clouds in front of the old man. Bring that young man to my Mount Qianyuan, the old man ordered. The white crane let out a cry and answered the old man's order. The old man's figure gradually disappeared. The white crane also landed on the cloud and arrived at the place where Lin Chi was. A white crane suddenly appeared and immediately attracted the attention of countless people present. Legend had it that the white crane was a celestial mount. However, that white crane had special dot-looking feathers with immortal chi surrounding it. It looked somewhat like a legendary immortal bird. Everyone's gaze fixed on it. Lin Chi raised his head and looked at the white crane in surprise. It looked like it came from an immortal. It was different from an ordinary white crane. Everyone followed the white crane to see what it wanted to do. The white crane landed on the top of the tallest building and fixed its gaze on Lin Chi. People soon noticed that the white crane was staring at Lin Chi. Whispers broke out. Lin Chi attracted the attention of the white crane. How astonishing was he! The people around that area looked back and forth between the white crane and Lin Chi. They were sure that they were looking at each other and that the white crane was not coincidentally looking at Lin Chi. Friend, I am from Mount Qianyuan. I am here to bring you to Qianyuan Mountain under the Taoist spiritual master Tai's order of the Golden Light Cave of Mount Qianyuan. Are you willing to follow me? The white crane said in human language. Although it looked like an immortal bird, no one at the scene thought it was an immortal bird. After all, immortals were legends, and no one had ever seen one before. It exploded a discussion now that the immortal bird spoke in human language. Immortal bird. It was an immortal bird from an immortal. It was from Mount Qianyuan. You. Lin Chi was surprised. He quickly calmed himself down and said, why would Mount Qianyuan notice me? The Taoist spiritual master Tai has 108,000 clones, and each clone can cover 3,000 miles with a thought. It's not difficult for him to find someone with immortal destiny, the white crane replied. Lin Chi was shocked deep in his heart. He could not imagine what kind of great power that was. All right, I will go with you, Lin Chi agreed. There was no future in such a small place. Lin Chi would have to go and take a look, whether it was a good or a bad ending since the immortal destiny had appeared. The white crane spread its wings and slowly landed beside Lin Chi. A breeze appeared under Lin Chi's feet, and he was blown onto the back of the white crane and sat down steadily. Lin Chi. Many people who knew Lin Chi, as well as people from Lin Chi's sect, stepped forward at this moment and said worriedly, "The trip has far exceeded our understanding. Are you sure you want to go rashly? Don't worry. It will be fine," Lin Chi comforted him. Lin Chi should be able to protect himself with his various trump cards. "Be careful," they said. "I will," Lin Chi said with a smile. The white crane gently spread its wings and flew up to nearly 10 meters in the air. "Is there anything else you want to tell them?" "No. Let's go," Lin Chi said and waved goodbye to the others. "Sit tight." The white crane spread its wings and flew at full speed. The surrounding environment became blurry, and the sky quickly darkened in just a few seconds. The white crane's figure was blurry from the ground and then disappeared without a trace. "It looks exactly like how an immortal does things," the ones who were watching were shocked and sighed. Chapter 98. Mount Shenyuan, Golden Light Cave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 98. Mount Shenyuan, Golden Light Cave. Translator. Nyo iwo Studio Editor. Nyo iwo Studio. The white crane formed a barrier around its body to resist the airflow at high speed. Lin Chi gradually adapted to the surrounding environment at this speed. Lin Chi was shocked to find that the white crane seemed to be flying in the universe when he looked closely. The light that formed long streams seemed to be stars that elongated at high speed. Could it be that the white crane had left the planet and come to outer space? Layers of ripples appeared in the void suddenly in front of them like water ripples after traveling in the darkness for a while. The white crane's body disappeared after passing through the ripples. These ripples should be a mysterious barrier. A burst of dazzling light shone in Lin Chi's eyes when he passed through the ripples. His surroundings were no longer the endless darkness dotted with stars but the azure blue sky. The clouds fluttered, the air was fresh, there were faintly discernible immortal cranes, and even phoenixes within the clouds. It was a peaceful scene. In front of him was a towering mountain after he passed through the cloud. The clouds floated on the mountainside. Immortal cranes and phoenixes flew on the mountainside, dashing into the sky. The white crane spread its wings and gradually approached the mountain. The words, Mount Shenyuan, could be seen on the mountain gate when they approached it. That was Mount Shenyuan. It stood in the universe. It opened a peaceful space in the universe. "I've brought immortal destiny to Mount Shenyuan and enter the Golden Light Cave under your order, Taoist spiritual master," said the white crane. A light appeared on the huge mountain gate of Mount Quanyuan. The white crane was qualified to pass through the gate. The white crane's snow-white figure instantly flew to the top of Mount Shenyuan from the mountainside after carrying Lin Chi through the mountain gate. The Golden Light Cave was at the peak of the mountain and could be seen at a glance. The white crane instantly flew into the Golden Light Cave. Lin Chi was shocked by the scene there as soon as they entered. Heaven and a small world were inside the Golden Light Cave. The white crane was high in the sky. Below it was mountains, rivers, and the earth. There was a vibrant green scene. There was a desert behind it after passing through this area. An endless snowy mountain was ahead of them when they flew for some time. Finally, a huge palace appeared after passing through the barrier. There was where the Taoist spiritual master Tai was. Lin Chi felt a gust of wind under his feet when they landed on the square in front of the palace. He hopped off the white crane and stood on the ground of the palace. Two young followers dressed in Taoist robes greeted him. "We are here to attend the immortal destiny under Taoist spiritual master Tai." Please come with us. The follower looked at Lin Chi and invited him. Go, said the white crane. You will have to walk the rest of the path. Thank you for giving me a ride, Lin Chi said. Don't mention it, the white crane said. The follower led the way. They looked at the palace and then at Lin Chi. Please follow us. Okay, thank you, Lin Chi said. Lin Chi walked toward the palace, taking one step at a time. Lin Chi stood where he was, not moving at all, from the perspective of the white crane and the two followers. Next is the temperament test. We'll have to trouble you to bring him back to where he came from if he cannot pass the test, said one of the followers. I'm used to it, the white crane nodded. He had sent more than one person back. Only 1 out of 100 people with immortal destiny can pass the test. The temperament test is more important than anything else, said a follower. Most people with immortal destiny are trapped in the temperament test and can't get rid of it. They still need our help to get out of it. Those who pass it often need 3 to 5 years. I don't know how long this person needs. His 3 to 5 years is only a cup of tea for us. Let's wait and see, another follower said. He will be trapped to death if he did not manage to walk out after 2 hours. We have to take action then, said the follower. They observed Lin Chi's condition. They could also judge Lin Chi's condition from his emotions, movements, and other aspects. The white crane spread its wings slightly, and fierce winds gathered between its wings. The white crane lowered its head to absorb them. The fierce wind gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in this place, which was a great tonic. The white crane used it to recover its strength, just like mortal drinking water and eating food. The two Taoist followers, one holding a white fan and the other holding a ruler, could free people from the test. They stood still and looked at Lin Chi quietly. Lin Chi moved forward suddenly. The two Taoist followers looked surprised. They quickly looked at each other and lowered their heads to count the time. Then, the surprise in their eyes became even more intense. 3 days. One Taoist follower quickly calculated the time and was surprised. He said, he only used 3 days of his time flow to pass the temperament test. I've never seen anyone pass the temperament test so quickly, another Taoist follower said in surprise. Taoist spiritual master, you found a treasure this time. The white crane's eyes also revealed a human-like surprise. It had brought too many people to the Golden Light Cave. Lin Chi was the undisputed number 1 among all its experiences. It was not just an ordinary number 1. Lin Chi had only used 3 days in his understanding, while the fastest person that the white crane had met before had used 2 years to pass the test of their temperament. That was between the first and the second. Wasn't their gap too big? It seems that I don't have to go back, the white crane said with a smile. Thank you, immortal crane. I have prepared everything to welcome you. The Taoist follower turned around and bowed. The white crane knew where to go and spread its wings, and left. The two Taoist followers took small steps. They were clearly behind Lin Chi, but they arrived in front of Lin Chi in a flash. They stretched out their hands toward the immortal hall and said, Please go in, immortal. Taoist spiritual master has been waiting for a long time. What happened just now? Lin Chi asked with confusion. Lin Chi saw fog and walked for a long time before walking out. In the end, Lin Chi found that they were all illusions, and the time had not passed that long in a daze. It was Taoist spiritual master's test. You passed it perfectly, said the Taoist follower. Lin Chi had guessed it was a test and nodded slightly. Lin Chi walked on the ground in front of the immortal palace, following the lead of the two Taoist followers. The ground under his feet was smooth, containing all kinds of wonderful scenes as if each step was a world. The two Taoist followers stopped and said in front of the immortal palace, Taoist spiritual master is waiting for you. We can't follow you in. Thank you for leading the way. Lin Chi climbed up the stairs and walked toward the immortal palace. There was no more test this time. He had undergone the test of temperament when he arrived. The immortal palace was not a palace, but a world when Lin Chi went into it and saw it. Then, Lin Chi saw a huge figure sitting cross-legged here, which was dozens of meters tall. Lin Chi was not even 1/3 of the height of the cushion he sat on. He had to look up to see him. He should be the Taoist spiritual master Tai. Lin Chi, this is Golden Light Cave of Mount Qianyuan. I am Taoist spiritual master Tai. You are a person with immortal destiny. Are you willing to take me as your master and join Mount Qianyuan? Taoist spiritual master Tai asked. I'll be delighted to, Lin Chi said. Countless information poured into Lin Chi's mind in an instant. Lin Chi's knowledge and wisdom had grown tremendously. A set of realms appeared in his mind. Qi, refinement, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, soul formation, avatar, Tao fusing, Mahayana, ascension, heaven immortal, true immortal, mystic immortal, golden immortal, Tai immortal, quasi, saint, and saint. Divine techniques and spells swirled in his mind. He could choose at will. Chapter 99. Heavenly Immortal Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99. Heavenly Immortal Technique Translator. Nyo-i.bo Studio Editor. Nyo-i.bo Studio. These divine techniques are of the same level. You can choose the divine technique that suits you. You will reach the level of Heaven Immortal when you master it. I will arrange for your subsequent level based on your performance. The voice of the Taoist spiritual master Tai rang in Lin Chi's mind. The performance of the successful technique is reflected in many aspects. The speed of time is one aspect, but it is not the only aspect. These divine techniques are all of a high level. Lin Chi looked at them one by one, and his expression gradually turned into one of shock and awe. These were all things that Lin Chi had never heard of before, could turn the world upside down if they were placed in the outside world. The spells inside are all the outer spells of Mount Qianyuan. You can pick a few of them and learn. The inner spells will be given to you according to your aptitude after you have mastered the cultivation method, Taoist spiritual master Tai said. Can't I learn all the inner spells? Asked Lin Chi. You can learn all of them after becoming a gold immortal, replied Taoist spiritual master Tai. Heaven immortal, true immortal, mystic immortal, gold immortal, and Tai immortal. Although Taoist spiritual master Tai was called Taoist spiritual master, he was a Tai immortal. In addition, Taoist spiritual master Tai was the earliest Tai immortal to reach that level, and he was the strongest among the current Tai immortals. L.rg. Those who reached the Tai immortal realm earlier than the Taoist spiritual master Tai were either dead or at least at the quasi-saint level. All this information was given to Lin Chi just now. Taking the Taoist spiritual master Tai as a master was like taking the top immortal under the quasi-saint as master. Master, do you have any recommendations for the divine technique I can choose to learn? Asked Lin Chi. Others will get my recommendations, but you are different. I only have a vague view of your situation. I hope that you will follow your heart and choose to avoid being misled by me. I still need to observe for a while, said the Taoist spiritual master Tai. Lin Chi was stunned, but he immediately understood. He was not from this world, and he had a system to cheat. It was normal for the Taoist spiritual master to feel vague information about him. Lin Chi read through all the divine techniques one by one. The Taoist spiritual master Tai wanted Lin Chi to follow his heart and choose whatever he felt was best and most suitable, so Lin Chi followed his instincts. Lin Chi instinctively did not like many divine techniques, so he did not understand them deeply and just gave up. Lin Chi would not do that if it were not for the Taoist spiritual master Tai's instructions to follow his heart. Since the master had guided him, it did not matter. He could choose generously. Soon, many divine techniques were eliminated by him. Only 3 divine techniques which gave Lin Qi a good impression were left. 6 Yang Time Law. Cultivating this divine technique would be like 6 hours in the sun during the day. There were 6 different states, and each state had different effects. It included the aspects of starting, attacking, defending, moving, cultivating, and thinking. It could be understood as a kind of divine technique that could make one omnipotent. The divine technique would be like a blazing sun, with earth-shaking power when it was cultivated to the great completion. Microcosmic orbit. It was a basic divine technique, but it could allow one to cultivate it to the level of a heaven immortal. One could imagine what level it would raise the foundation of a person. It was not as earth-shaking as the 6 Yang Time Law, but its combat strength was not weak, and it was a low-profile technique. Sun, Moon Qi, taking technique. That cultivation art was close to the Taiji Yin Yang. One could form 2 types of Yin Yang energy in one's body when cultivating this divine technique. The Yin Yang energy was a type of energy that focused on nourishing one's health. The Yin Yang energy contained in one's body could prolong one's life. However, the Yin Yang energy that could allow one to cultivate to the level of a heaven immortal was not as simple as prolonging one's life. The Yin Yang energy could fuse to form a tremendous battle prowess under the guidance of the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique. Lin Qi had a rather favorable impression of the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique. Unlike the 6 Yang Time Law, which contained the power of the sun in one's body, the microcosmic orbit contained spiritual energy in one's body. The Sun Moon Qi, taking technique contained 2 types of energy in one's body. Yang energy and Yin energy. One extra energy felt pretty awesome. Although these types of energy were collectively known as dermic powers and would eventually upgrade to immortal energy. 2 energy meant that it had 1 extra than the others. It felt pretty awesome. I'll choose the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique, Lin Qi decided. He chose the divine technique. The Taoist spiritual master Tai immediately knew Lin Qi's choice. He said, the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique cultivates the energy of Yin and Yang. The 2 energy are innately incompatible. You need to put more effort to reconcile them. First, you need to balance them, then fuse them. It takes more energy than the divine technique with only 1 energy, but you may not gain more from it. Are you sure this is your best choice? Lin Qi was stunned. 1 extra energy meant there was extra trouble. Lin Qi finally felt that the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique was still better after scanning through all the divine techniques. He nodded and said, I have a good impression of this divine technique. Okay. The Taoist spiritual master Tai only reminded Lin Qi, and he would not help him choose. All the divine power that Lin Qi saw were good choices to choose. Sunday Moon Qi, taking technique. The 107 people practiced it, and 96 of them mastered it in the past. Taoist spiritual master Tai said and waved his hand, causing the world around him to change. Lin Qi came to a purple space in the changing world. There were 96 phantoms in front of him. These phantoms were male and female, some were human, and some were demons. They were either silent or smiling, and their expressions were all different. These are the phantoms they left behind when they mastered the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique. They record the whole process of their cultivation of the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique. You can refer to them at will, the Taoist spiritual master Tai introduced. Lin Qi walked to the phantoms of the female cultivator closest to him and injected a stream of energy into her body. It was as if Lin Qi had become her, and he could feel the whole process of her cultivating the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique. She had cultivated in the purple space for 172 years and had successfully mastered the Sun Moon Qi, taking technique, immediately ascending to the level of a heaven immortal. I can sense that this senior has extraordinary talent. Lin Qi exited the perceptive state and looked at the Taoist spiritual master Tai. Master, this senior has excellent talent. When did she start cultivating? What realm is she in now? She started cultivating before the third tribulation and went through the third tribulation. She is already in the middle stage of the mystic immortal realm. Now, she is cultivating in her Taoist sect in seclusion. She will come to Mount Shenyuan to ask about the Tao every 13,000 years. Taoist spiritual master Tai said, she reached the level of a true immortal and switched to cultivating the true immortal divine technique after she mastered the sun-moon chi, taking technique 52,000 years ago. A realm, and one true immortal divine technique. Heaven immortal technique, true immortal technique, mystic immortal technique. The sun-moon chi, taking technique was only a heaven immortal technique. It would no longer be of use once she reached the early stage of the true immortal realm. Her talent is indeed top-notch, Lin Chi sighed. The first tribulation took 120,000 years. She had cultivated to the true immortal realm in only 50,000 years. She had cultivated to the mystic immortal realm in less than 3 tribulations. Her talent was top-notch. Ordinary heaven immortals might not necessarily reach the true immortal realm after cultivating 10 or even 100 tribulations. But they could afford to waste time. They would live the same life as heaven and earth after reaching the heaven immortal realm. When you comprehend the sun-moon chi, taking technique in this space, you will leave behind a phantom during the process. It is like a blessing for future generations, said Taoist spiritual master Tai. You can also refuse to cultivate here or choose not to leave behind an illusion, of course. I will leave behind a phantom, said Lin Chi. Okay. The Taoist spiritual master looked at the many phantoms and said, you can open your Dharma eyes to look at these illusions. The more intense the light emitted by the phantoms, the deeper your comprehension of the sun-moon chi, taking technique will be, and the better your performance will be, which is worthy of reference. Thank you for your reminder, Master, said Lin Chi. Opening the Dharma eyes was a kind of spell, which was not difficult to learn. It was easy to find the method to open the Dharma eyes among the many memories that Taoist spiritual master Tai had instilled in him. Sure enough, each phantom had different levels of light. The senior who was the first phantom he referred had the most brilliant light among others. Chapter 100. The Great World of Xixia. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100. The Great World of Xixia. Lin Chi looked through the few phantoms that he had the deepest understanding. They were the same. Lin Chi understood some part of the sun-moon chi, taking technique. He only needed to practice it. A throne appeared under the Taoist spiritual master Tai. He left a clone in the purple space to protect and guide Lin Chi. Lin Chi found a place to sit down. He did not comprehend or cultivate the divine technique. He called the system, and an image filled with futuristic technology appeared in front of him. Lin Chi placed the sun-moon chi taking technique inside the silver, white, and aqua-blue beams. The fusion of the ancient immortal item and futuristic technology showed a great difference. Sunday moon chi taking technique placed successfully. Divine technique upgrading. 1% to 10%, 30%, 50% to 80%, 90%, 99%, the closer the sun-moon chi, taking technique was to the maximum level, the more obvious the changes in Lin Chi's temperament. His realm rose to the ascension realm. The clone of Taoist spiritual master Tai, who was sitting in the lotus position, opened his ancient and deep eyes, and a rare emotion appeared in his eyes. He was moved. 6 hours. Taoist spiritual master Tai looked at Lin Chi with a surprised expression. Even those who had followed Taoist spiritual master Tai for dozens of tribulations, hundreds of tribulations, or even thousands of tribulations, had never seen Taoist spiritual master Tai in such a state. It was clear that Taoist spiritual master Tai was shocked. A being with extraordinary talent should take at least 100 years to master the heaven immortal divine technique. Moreover, it had 2 energies. He had learned the sun-moon chi, taking technique, one of the most difficult heaven immortal divine techniques in hours. It was like an ordinary person learning a skill and counting it in seconds. Wasn't that too unrealistic? 100%, Sunday Moon Chi taking technique has reached the maximum level. Circles of ripples spread out from Lin Chi's body after he had mastered the divine technique. It was a normal reaction after he had completed his ascension and reached the level of a heaven immortal. Immortal light surrounded Lin Chi's body. His body was evolving in the immortal light, which was visible to the naked eye. It was a rebirth, and beams of purple light poured into Lin Chi's body from the top of his head. It was as if lotuses were blooming around Lin Chi's body. Those lotuses were faintly discernible, appearing and disappearing at a relatively fast rate. All sorts of strange phenomena appeared around Lin Chi's body for some time. He ascended. Purple clouds appeared from the east. The 5 Chi condensed in his mind. And 3 flowers bloomed on his head. It would take Lin Chi at least tens of thousands of years or even longer reach this stage under normal circumstances. It was different if he had a master. Lin Chi had the system and potential, but he lacked the opportunity to activate it. It was only after Lin Chi was taken in as a disciple under Taoist spiritual master Tai that his potential was truly stimulated, allowing him to enter a period of explosive strength. Lin Chi had officially stepped into heaven immortal realm. He ascended to immortality. Lin Chi would live the same life as heaven and earth, immortal and indestructible. Heaven and earth were vast. He could freely roam the 6 paths and the 3 realms. He would become a heaven immortal. He had already obtained freedom. Lin Chi looked ahead, and his eyes suddenly flashed with immortal light. Lin Chi had been reborn after reaching the heaven immortal realm. He had immortal eyes, and he activated them. He could see all the worlds, and the first thing he saw was the heaven court. The magnificent South Heaven Gate was right in front of him. The heavenly soldiers and generals guarding the South Heaven Gate had also noticed Lin Chi. They saw a sudden appearance of divine energy, and Lin Chi's gaze was removed. The heaven court was honorable, and he could not even look at the South Heaven Gate from afar. Lin Chi opened his immortal eyes and looked at the netherworld. The 10 halls of the netherworld, the 18 levels of hell, the great sea of bitterness, and the bridge of helplessness. Souls would pass through the great sea of bitterness before entering the netherworld. Countless souls would suffer in it, and a terrifying netherworld ship would lead them to the netherworld. However, the efficiency was low, and the souls would suffer in the great sea of bitterness for an extremely long time. There might be 18 levels of hell waiting behind after passing through the great sea of bitterness. The netherworld was filled with despair emotions as if there was no hope at all. The sea of great suffering does not exist, nor does the 18 levels of hell exist. Everything is because of their thought. The heart of a sinner reflects all suffering. The voice of the Taoist spiritual master Tai suddenly rang in Lin Chi's ear. This is the real netherworld. Lin Chi felt his vision blurred. The netherworld had changed its appearance. There were only 10 halls there, and there was no suffering. The suffering in the netherworld is self-inflicted. Lin Chi asked in surprise. The words you write down are a line of words. They wrote down their consequences personally, using their entire lives to write them down, Taoist spiritual master Tai. Lin Chi seemed to understand a little of the meaning behind those words. How is it? Are you feeling unwell? Asked Taoist spiritual master Tai. Lin Chi knew that the Taoist spiritual master Tai was asking about the Sun Moon Chi taking technique. He closed the immortal eyes, stood up, and replied, I'm all right. Everything is normal. Not bad. Taoist spiritual master Tai nodded with admiration. I see that you are fine, and you are fine. Then it means that you are fine. You completed the Sun Moon Chi taking technique in 6 hours, which was the first in history. It must be mainly because of luck, said Lin Chi. You can't cultivate with normal methods with your talent. Follow me. Taoist spiritual master Tai waved his hand. The purple space changed. Lin Chi returned to the immortal palace and faced the Taoist spiritual master Tai again. He saw Taoist spiritual master Tai chanting some mantras. There was almost nothing that would need him to chant a mantra. He could solve almost everything with just a thought. It meant that what he was about to show was profound and important if he was chanting a mantra. Golden light burst out from the Taoist spiritual master Tai's hand, and a world faintly appeared in the golden light. He had opened a space in his hand. It was a world. This is the great world of Zixia. Taoist spiritual master Tai waved his hand, and the world in his hand was thrown in front of Lin Chi. The size of this world was large, about 2,000 times larger than the planet that Lin Chi was familiar with. This is the place where my first disciple, Taoist spiritual master Zixia, attained the Tao. Taoist spiritual master Zixia broke through to the Tai immortal realm here, leaving behind a vibrant vitality that made the great world of Zixia prosperous and resplendent. The Zixia divine technique that Taoist spiritual master Zixia left behind when he attained the Tao, and the purple feather fan that accompanied him when he reached the Tai immortal realm is in it. They are all supreme treasures. Each of my disciples will be sent to the Zixia great world to comprehend Taoist spiritual master Zixia's Tao when they reach the golden immortal realm. Lin Chi, although you are only a heaven immortal, I believe that you are qualified to comprehend the Tao left behind by Taoist spiritual master Zixia. I'm sending you to the great world of Zixia to cultivate. Heaven immortal, true immortal, mystic immortal, golden immortal, Tai immortal. Only the gold immortals would be sent to the great world of Zixia. However, Taoist spiritual master Tai was sending Lin Chi, who was just in heaven immortal realm there. Was the Taoist spiritual master Tai thinking too highly of him? Only gold immortals will cultivate in the great world of Zixia. Isn't it dangerous for me to go in there as a heaven immortal? Asked Lin Chi. Although Taoist spiritual master Zixia's Tao is left behind there, it was only a Tai immortal's Tao. The life forms in the great world of Zixia can only cultivate to the level of heaven immortal at most. Other disciples only go there to comprehend and never come in contact with the local life forms. Taoist spiritual master Tai said, however, you can indeed come into contact with the local life forms as a heaven immortal. I happen to have a mission for you.